Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you are well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more r/AmITheButtHole. And if you love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, that subscribe, maybe that notification bell too, or massively helps out the channel, but you already do enough, so no pressure to do so. And let's crack on with today's stories. Much love, guys. And our first story comes from Lemon Meringue Octopi, who says, am I the arsehole for walking out of a restaurant twice after my wife made me the third wheel again? I 30 male, my wife 29 female, planned a date night tonight as our kids were at my in-laws. We hadn't decided where to go, and while driving, my wife asked me where to go. I told her that I don't care as long as it's somewhere that our co-workers don't work, because my wife works in the restaurant industry and knows a lot of people that work at the places near us. This turns into the majority of our dates being talking with them instead of me. So I tell my wife, as long as I'm not made into a third wheel this time, I'll be happy. She picks a Tex-Mex place and says, I don't know anyone that works here. As soon as we walk into the restaurant, someone shouts my wife's name and a woman comes over to us and tells us she'll take us. Turns out this woman is an ex-co-worker. We sit at our table and my wife and her are already talking and gossiping about things going on at their previous jobs. I wasn't mad at this point because I know that they want to catch up. After several minutes of this, she left to go get our drinks and my wife apologizes and says she had no idea she worked there. A few minutes later, she comes back with our drinks and her boyfriend, who is also an ex-co-worker of my wife's, and they proceeded to talk and ignore me again. Then after taking our food orders, she stays at our table and they talk for another 5 to 7 minutes instead of putting our order in. I try to join in and I'm ignored again. When she goes to put the order in, I tell my wife, I asked for you not to do this one thing tonight. She proceeds to tell me that she didn't want to be rude and it's just small talk. I tell her that I tried to join in and they ignored me. She tells me that they didn't ignore me, they just didn't hear me. I was speaking as loud as they were. She then asks me, what do you want me to do? Tell her to fuck off? I said no, politely tell her that you're on a date with your husband and would like to spend some time together. She tells me that is rude and is basically the same as telling her to fuck off. She tells me to stop being in a bad mood because we're alone now and that I'm the only one ruining the night. I said fine, then I'll remove myself, and got up and walked out of the restaurant. I stood outside several minutes until she called and begged me to come inside. There was a few issues with my meal which turned into another argument with her saying nothing can be right because I'm in a bad mood because she spoke to someone. I told her that I refuse to let her make me the arsehole in this situation. She says I'm being controlling and this is what normal people do and that I'm being psychotic. I asked her for the keys so I can go out to the car and cool off. She tells me no, so I tell her I'm going to walk home and get up and leave. She calls me 20 minutes later and asks where I am and comes to pick me up. This turned into another giant fight and her saying she's going to stay the night at her parents and this is why her friends think I'm an arsehole. So, am I the arsehole? Edit, I forgot to mention that our server's boyfriend that also works at the restaurant and knows my wife also approached the table and spoke to my wife. However, that was a 2-minute conversation, then he left and didn't bother us again. But Shiny Bobble says not the arsehole, your wife doesn't want to be rude, except to you. She should try, it's been ages, were you two having a date night tonight, but we, wife and friend, should catch up over lunch, coffee, whatever sometime. Not rude unless someone ignores the boundary, which was what your wife did. Stryweaver says not the arsehole, you made it clear that this was a sore spot and your wife chose to be rude to you rather than risk coming across as rude to her friends. She easily could have said, it's so great to see you guys, but this is a rare night without kids for us, so let's catch up later. That would have been considerate of everyone. She prioritized her friends over you. Arnold says, everyone sucks here, this is going to cost me some karma, but hear me out. You guys have a big communication problem. Throughout your interaction, it is clear that your wife's behavior and responses make you feel your opinion and voice aren't important. It's a valid and common feeling in relationships, and you should not be ashamed of it at all. Your wife, on the other hand, seems to feel your request was unreasonable and a way to control her. It's also a valid and common feeling in a relationship. One partner makes repeated pleas to be heard and the other feels controlled and feed into it by refusing to cooperate, creating a self-feeding loop. The more you ask to be heard, the more she feels controlled and refuses to hear. None of these feelings make either of you the arsehole. What does is the way you both respond to conflict. She builds a wall of denial, convincing herself she satisfied your demand within reason, and justifying any further request as you being unreasonable. She is the arsehole for that. You in response decide to walk out on her because you were ignored. You decide to sabotage the already sinking ship. Most people don't understand that one. But walking out as a way to protest is damaging to the relationship. Walking away should be done to collect yourself and come back later to resolve the conflict. What you achieve by walking out is a bigger, more painful conflict than it already was, making you the arsehole as well. You guys need to work on communication better. You love her and therefore yearn to be valued by her in such conversations. And since she gladly introduced you to everyone she knows, she loves you and wants you to be there with her. But somehow along the way you guys got lost and end up fighting over tangled up emotional responses. Columbo's Peugeot says, not the arsehole, she's disrespecting your time together and doesn't care that it makes you feel bad. She's putting her ex-co-worker's feelings above yours. All she needed to do after the initial hello chat is say, husband and I are having a date night tonight without the kids, so let's catch up another time. Jelasian says, you're the arsehole. You got so upset that your wife was chatting to a friend that you stormed outside to pout like a child. After you went back in, you had problems with your food, and then got so upset you wanted to leave and walk home. That is pretty childish behaviour. It seems your wife legitimately didn't know that a former colleague worked here, and you never explained to that colleague that you are on a date night and would appreciate some privacy, and you need to be the one to say that because it's in your wife's industry. If your wife said it and it was taken rudely, it could affect her reputation. If you said it, worst case, they might think that your wife is married to an arse, but at least it wouldn't affect her. But just in general, going outside to pout because your wife is talking to someone else and you feel ignored just seems like something a child would do, not a grown man. Now Bishmurph says, I'm sorry, but a lot of the comments here have never worked in this industry. You run into people everywhere, even if you had no clue they worked there. And for 2, this is a referral, extremely social business. If OP's wife is suddenly fired or needs a job, interactions like this is how you get jobs. Oh, and so at the border can def get me hired if the restaurant floods, or I get fired or need to leave because of harassment, etc. This is a business where personal likes are all that matters. If she snubs this waitress, 15 other ones at 15 different locations will not recommend her for hire if she applies. And Tinox says, not the arsehole. If your wife wants to catch with her ex-co-workers, then she needs to do that in her own time, not when y'all are in a date. And I got to say, I've never worked in that industry before, and coming into this one, I was definitely thinking along not the arsehole lines. From what it sounds like, it's happened multiple times in the past and he requested just this one time, let's not do this, but it just happened again. But I'm also questioning, these people that's coming up to OP's wife and actually talking at her, because it's like, I could never see myself doing that in the restaurant. Sure, if you do know someone, even if you work in the industry, surely you know that this couple has come out for a date night or just some food together. Why would you interrupt it? And I don't think you need to be in the industry to actually see that, but maybe I'm completely wrong here. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below and we'll move on to another story. And our next story comes from Trick APC, who says, am I the arsehole for calling a woman in the supermarket a creep? Today, I took my 3-month-old twins to the supermarket by myself while my wife had a day to herself. She is a stay-at-home mum and I have been working a lot more due to the holidays. While shopping, my daughter pooped, and I mean she pooped. There's no changing tables in the men's room and there was no family bathroom. I went to the Starbucks in the store and asked if I could change her on one of the tables in the back. I have a blanket and a changing pad in my bag. Her ass wouldn't be on the bare table. The barista said yes, so I got to business. An older woman, probably late 40s, early 50s, came up to me and started talking to my son, who I was wearing on my back. He's cute, so I didn't pay any mind. She then starts telling me that I needed to make sure to wipe her little tookie, referring to her privates. I told her I'm well aware of how to change a diaper. She continued to critique, best word I can use, my wiping style, and eventually when I went to change her clothes due to baby poop blowout, and while I was putting her dirty clothes in a waste bag, the woman goes to put her clothes on her. I snatched my daughter up off the table and told the woman, I don't need someone else dressing my baby, go away you creep. The woman looked flabbergasted and then started crying, saying she was only trying to help. Pretty much everyone in the surrounding area told me that was an overreaction and she was only trying to assist me. I feel bad for snapping at her. My wife told me not to because she would have done the same thing, but I feel like a douchebag. Am I the arsehole? Edit. I have not had a comment asking this, but I will put this out there. I did not go to my car to change them because I did not have a car. I walked to the store that is only a 5-minute walk. and I was not going to make my babysitting poop while I finished shopping. Final edit, I changed my baby on the table because I wasn't going to allow my infant to sit in shit while I was putting my groceries back and walked home. I realised changing her on the table was not the best idea, but it was my only option. I could not change her on the floor of the men's room with my other baby still on me, and the other store manager told me it was alright and they will sanitise as soon as I was done. I also did not think to ask to use the woman's changing station. I recognised that I, as a 6'7" male, and intimidating, and even with my 2 babies, I thought it would be an issue. In the future, I will make sure to ask. Thank you for everyone who suggested it. Just to add, I didn't ask if I was an arsehole for changing my daughter on the table, and I don't particularly care if you think I am. I asked if I was the arsehole for how I responded to the woman. Thank you. Absolutely not the arsehole. What goes through someone's mind to touch someone else's child? And this is not even considering what's going on in the world right now, and you know what I'm talking about. Try and physically dress someone else's child is crazy stuff. Absolutely not the arsehole for that. But Jimmy Debbia says, not the arsehole. If you were to reverse the gender roles, you'd probably have walked out of there in handcuffs. And Rap2Right says, not the arsehole, she was intrusive, sexist, and yes, creepy. You are absolutely right to shut her down. I am very sorry that so much of the world is built on the assumption that men don't parent children. It's wrong that the men's room has no changing table. Lola says, no, it's not an overreaction when some random touches your baby for any reason. What on earth? Not the arsehole. My Squishy Fishy says, not the arsehole. Rule 1 of literally everything is never touch someone else's child. Nothing about your situation was any of her business from the start. She's lucky you didn't make more of a scene and call the police. And they were on a break says, not the arsehole at all. You don't ever try to touch a stranger's baby, especially not during COVID and flu season. Maybe it was a bit much to call her a creep, but as someone who's also got a baby, I would definitely overreact too if a stranger tried to dress him. Now, what do you guys make of this one? Put yourself in that situation. How would you react? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and we'll move on to another story. And our next story comes from EricGone3563, who asks, am I the arsehole for taking away my daughter's Thanksgiving present because she refused to eat what my wife cooked? Hello, I'm 40s, a father of 2 kids, son 14 and daughter 16. I recently got married to my wife Molly, who is a great cook, and she has been cooking for me and the kids in the past few months. However, my daughter doesn't like all the meals Molly cooks and sometimes cooks her own dinners. Molly, as a result, would get hurt thinking her food isn't good enough. She confided in me about how much it bothers her to see my daughter decline her food and cook by herself. I've talked to my daughter to address the issue, and she said she appreciates Molly's cooking but naturally cannot be expected to eat everything she cooks. I asked her to be more considerate and try to take a few bites here and there whenever Molly cooks to avoid conflict, since she's very sensitive. My daughter just nodded, and I thought that was the end of it. Last night I got home from a dinner meeting with a few co-workers and found Molly arguing with my daughter. I asked what's going on, and Molly told me my daughter said no to dinner she cooked and went into the kitchen to prepare her own dinner, as if Molly's food was less than. I asked my daughter to come out of the kitchen and please sit at the table and eat at least some of what stepmom cooked, but she refused, saying she's old enough not to eat the food and she doesn't like and pretend to like it, just like I wanted her to appease her stepmom. I told her she was acting rude and had her turn the oven off, and told her no cooking for her tonight, and asked her to go to her room to think about this encounter, then come back and talk, but she started arguing. That is when I punished her by taking away a Thanksgiving gift that her mum left with me. We both paid for it, and she started crying, saying it was too much and that she didn't understand why she was being punished. Again, I asked her to go to her room to cool off, but she called my in-laws, her uncle and aunt, who picked a huge argument with me over the phone, said my daughter is old enough to cook her own meals and my wife should get over herself and stop picking on my daughter, but Molly explained she just wants to make sure my daughter eats well and that she cares, otherwise it wouldn't hurt her so bad. My in-laws told me to back out the punishment, but in my opinion this was more than an issue about dinner, and I refused to let them intervene and hung up. My daughter has been completely silent and refuses to come downstairs. To clarify, the gift, which is an iPhone, was supposed to be for my daughter's birthday 2 months ago, but due to circumstances we couldn't celebrate nor have the time to get her a gift, so her mum wanted her to have it on Thanksgiving. You know, there's some foods that people just don't like, some meals that people don't like, so of course, daughter does not want to eat them. So she was very grown up in the matter and was going to cook her own food, which I think is the right thing to do, but stepmom's getting offended about that. And so I gotta agree with some of the last lines there that she does need to get over herself, and it's one of these ones where we see it time and time again in these stories. If you keep pushing this issue, you know you're going to push away that family member by doing so. So absolutely you're going to be the arsehole to me in this story. But Rando says that you're the arsehole. Your in-laws had it spot on, and quotes, "My daughter is old enough to cook her own meals, and my wife should get over herself and stop picking on my daughter." Then goes on to say, your daughter's done nothing to warrant having her gift taken away. But A+ effort to your new wife for attempting to stick a wedge between you and your child, and A+ effort to you for not noticing. Edit, and this gift is her birthday gift that you didn't give her on her actual birthday. Oh, you're the arsehole, ×4. Third tries their charm says you're the arsehole. As is Molly. Your daughter doesn't always like Molly's food, and that's reasonable. It's not about it being less than, it's about personal preferences. Respect that your child is now old enough to have and act on their own food preferences. And quotes, Molly explained that she just wants to make sure my daughter eats well, and that she cares otherwise it wouldn't hurt her so bad, and then says that's a BS excuse. If it was a balanced diet, it wouldn't matter if the daughter was cooking. The discussion would be about healthy things your daughter could cook instead. Little Mountain Mama says you're the arsehole. If she is cooking her own food she likes better, who cares? Your new wife sounds like a control freak. It is about more than dinner. You brought a new wife into the house and suddenly she gets to control what your nearly adult daughter eats. It would be different if your daughter demanded fast food, but if she is cooking for herself, you and your wife do need to get over yourselves. Talibob says, you're the arsehole. Your daughter is right. She's old enough to make her own decisions regarding food, and it doesn't sound like she's eating unhealthy. Your wife is taking it way too personally. Now, what do you guys make of this one? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and we'll move on to another story. And our next story comes from a throwaway account titled, Am I the Arsehole for taking back my mother-in-law's birthday gift and leaving her house? My mother-in-law's birthday was yesterday, and we had a dinner at her house last night. She's always been a little particular about her gifts, and because of that, usually sends a very detailed list on the things she would like. This year she said she felt like everyone knew her well enough to get us something we knew she'd like, so she won't send us a list. I decided on a topaz necklace on a petite chain, topaz being her birthstone, and she enjoys very delicate jewellery. My husband unfortunately wasn't able to attend dinner, so this incident occurred without him present. When it was time to open presents, she opened ours. She took the necklace out of the box and told us the stone looked like a piss rock, and we should have known she wouldn't have liked it. I reached to the middle of the table where she had tossed it and gently grabbed the jewellery box, standing up from the table. I told her I'll return it and apologise for giving her a piss rock, and left before she had the time to respond. She called me multiple times on my way home and left me multiple voicemails telling me I ruined her birthday, and that was incredibly disrespectful. My husband told me I reacted emotionally, but told me she was out of line and should have just said thank you, because that's not how adults handle gifts they dislike. Am I the arsehole? Absolutely not the arsehole. What kind of reaction was this person expecting from you? And when you was getting like the multiple calls on the way home, I thought, she's gonna be phoning to apologise for what she said, blah blah blah. But she wasn't, she was doubling down. And that you ruined her birthday. I don't think I'd want much to do with that person anymore, to be quite honest. But AmITheButtHole says, not the arsehole. I find it hilarious when people are exceptionally rude and then get offended when people respond appropriately. Sam Squanch says, not the arsehole. I wouldn't give this lady a damn thing ever again. Adults should literally expect nothing from anyone besides their spouse on their birthday. You aren't 12 anymore. Time for mother-in-law to grow up. If an adult sends me their birthday wish list, I'm cutting that person out of my life. Legitimate Essay says, not the arsehole. How did you react emotionally? You quietly picked it up off the table, apologised and left. As for your mother-in-law, good God. As someone who is so particular with gifts, kind of rude thing to be in my opinion, but whatever. It's really strange that she would open up the possibility of setting herself up for disappointment by not providing a list. It's almost like this was some sort of childish test to see who knew her the best and humiliate the ones whose gifts didn't live up to her standards. Also, in what world does someone receive a piece of jewellery, or any gift for that matter, that isn't purposely offensive and say anything but thank you? And not only that, but call it a piss rock. Unbelievable. You're the one being considered disrespectful. If the only way for your mother-in-law to enjoy a birthday is to belittle and insult someone without any pushback, then that's not someone I'd want to really ever be around. I'll check out r/justnomother-in-law. Might look a bit familiar. Sam Spade PI says you didn't ruin her birthday. She did. Instead of saying, "Where did you get such a lovely topaz?" and then secretly return it to the store, like any civilized person does when they receive a gift they don't like, she insults your gift, and for you not reading her mind correctly, and then gets angry when you leave. Not the arsehole. And one more from a real wandering wizard who says, "Not the arsehole, and your husband is being weak and cowardly by trying to play the everyone is wrong here game. She's forfeited all rights to expect you to behave civil towards her. Stand your ground." Now, what do you guys make of this one? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below and your thoughts on all of today's stories if you choose to share them. There's a playlist on your screen right now that will scroll through all Am I the Arsehole playlist if you'd like to do that, and that would hugely help out the channel as well. No pressure to do so though. Thank you for your love, time and support, and I will see you in the next one. Take care guys. Much love.